Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 6 of the OSU Preview. I'm Alex Dusky, and I'm joined in the podcast booth by Asa Lucas and Jace Andrews. Guys, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I know Mr. Lucas is doing even better, though.
You know, life, I'm always grateful to wake up and have another beautiful day of existence.
That is always a good thing to have, I'd say that.
You know, you try not to take each day for granted, and we especially don't do that here in the studio.
Sounds like you're taking a more philosophic approach. You know, should we do a philosophy podcast next week instead of sports?
I do dabble in the pseudoscience of philosophy, so I could give us a good lecture.
Now, if you don't know Mr. Lucas, I'm pretty sure he's pretty good at talking about sports, but you get him on his philosophy trend, it'd be an hour-long podcast.
All right, well, let's switch into sports and talk about the big Cowboy win we had last week. First conference game, first road game. Cowboys defeat the Baylor Bears in Waco, 36-25. And Asa, I have to give it to you. Do you remember what your prediction was last week?
I've had so much going on and so much preparation note-wise for this show that I forgot.
Your prediction was 38-24.
Oh!
Off 3 points. So you win that one this week.
Well, folks, I take this job and this career very seriously, and I'm happy to see that it's continuing to pay off.
Well, I know that we're a Poke Report podcast affiliated, yes. And so if you watch the show, Asa did say in the show today that, you know, he dabbles in the predictions, or the show yesterday, rather.
Jace, I was going to add on, for those listening, we are affiliated with the Poke Report on campus. It's a student-run media content-producing channel, I guess you can say. We have a YouTube, social medias, and obviously Spotify. So last week, Jace and I were on the scene in Waco covering the game. It was amazing. So we have a show about that last week. And then this week, Asa and I were back in town. You can watch that as well. Humble plug there. You know, got to get those views up. But
well,
let's talk.
Some Cowboy fans need more of a fix, and the Poke Report can offer that. If you love the podcast, you'll love the show.
Some Lucas fans need more of Asa.
Looking at last week's game. Got another Spencer Sanders stat for you guys. Over the first 4 games of this season, he has thrown for 1,097 yards and 11 touchdowns with 2 interceptions. This is the most touchdowns and yards through the first 4 games in any season of his career.
I completely buy that. That makes sense to me. IQ wise, he's come out and looked as good as he ever has.
We're going to start off by talking about the offense, and I want to focus on all 3 parts of the football game this week because it's something that Coach Gundy has stressed in previous years, and he stressed in last Saturday's game, and it definitely paid off. But starting off with offense, Jace, what were your thoughts from the team?
All around, pretty good. I don't think there was anything they did wrong. That being said, there was nothing really special besides, you know, Spencer Sanders not having the longest pass of the day and somebody else having that. Mr. John Paul Richardson. His father actually was a big quarterback at A&M and played in the NFL, so he's got some background in the quarterback realm. Now, he did play wide receiver in high school and was All-American in that, so I'm sure it had been a while since he'd thrown a football, but did a pretty good job, 32-yard pass. That's something I like to see, some trick plays, especially in your conference opener on the road against the team that you lost the Big 12 championship to.
We're moving on past that.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, to pull out the tricks right there was very smart. Spencer, again, great game. Obviously had that one pick, but Gundy talked about it in the post-game press conference. Spencer made the right read on that play because the safety dropped back, and so he couldn't have the go route. He went the under route. He just missed the throw by a little bit, and the defender had to make a diving grab for that, so it was a good play by him. So I'm not really going to look too much on that. But Brennan finally coming out, 8 receptions, the most he's ever had, and then 86 yards as well, 10.8 average. Really good game from him, and I like what we're seeing because if you look at it, we had 3 guys averaging over 10 yards per catch in Brennan, Braden Johnson, and Bryson Green. And I'm telling you, we may not have a secure number 1 wide receiver, but we have 3 guys who probably could be number 1s at other universities right now.
Now, Asa, I know Jace didn't really leave much left for you to discuss, but what were your thoughts on the offense?
All right, I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn, but Jace did say a phrase that I feel like showed what last Saturday's game was, and that was not special.
Yeah.
So when I was going back and taking notes and watching the highlights, this Cowboys team, I guess kind of my eyes were opened a little more to the world and to the Big 12 football scene in 2022. And this Cowboys team is not necessarily as special as I thought they were. It was a big struggle against Baylor, and Baylor's a good team, but All of our flaws were as present as ever. I would kind of compare this game to be like a Wendy's 4 for 4.
This was my thing. In the moment, I thought we were going to lose. And now looking back on the game and realizing that we were up 23-3, like that is just completely blocked from my mind. And I have no memory of us being up that much because I was so nervous towards the end of the game.
We did get a couple breaks, and that's the thing that really helped us win. I mean, there was some interceptions in the fourth quarter. There was some halfback toss plays that Baylor ran that really kind of confused me. And I think we're very lucky and we survived Baylor, and the score does not reflect that.
Two things. The halfback toss in the end zone was the worst play call I've seen all year in college football. I don't know what that was about Baylor. Also, Asa, I want to hear that 4 for 4 real quick. What were you talking about this game, 4 for 4?
So anytime you go out and get fast food, Wendy's has this offer 4 for 4. You can get 4 items on the menu for $4.
4 for 4 is? You don't know what the 4 for 4 is?
No. He was comparing it to the Baylor game.
Maybe there's some people out there that don't know what it is. And what I meant by that is, $4 for 4 different items of food is okay. It will fill your stomach, and it's not great. And when you compare all the fast food restaurants in the world, Wendy's is not in the top half of them, at least in my opinion. So coming out of this game is like, yeah, it was good. It was like a 4 for 4. We got the win. Cowboy fans can be happy, but really it's nothing we should be proud and bragging to the world about.
I think the other thing is the offense really didn't do anything spectacular.
Nope.
Before we move on to the other two parts of the game, I do want to mention the opening drive was the longest drive the Cowboys had all season. It was 75 yards on 15 plays, took 5 minutes and 22 seconds off the clock. Looking at Baylor, going into this game, they allowed on average 79.5 rushing yards per game. OSU had 112 yards on the ground by half. So they kind of, blew up Baylor's defense on the run game. Looking at our defense, you guys kind of hinted at this. Kendall Daniels got the team's second safety of the year. Do either of you know the last time that OSU got 2 safeties in a season?
I got to be honest. I tried to look this up during the game. Could not find it. So if you found it, I applaud you.
Asa, any guesses?
Let's take a shot in the dark. I'm going to say last year.
1991.
Okay.
And you did mention those interceptions, and I want to give a shout out to Thomas Harper. He's from Knoxville. I watched him play high school. I've had a pretty good relationship with him through college. He got his second career interception, and Jason Taylor the second got his third career interception, and they were both in the third quarter. And Mike Gundy referred to the third quarter in this game as a video game because of everything that was happening.
I remember seeing that headline, and he's right. That third quarter was wild.
What else did you see from the defense?
I saw that our secondary still is struggling to cover, and they're allowing a lot of big plays. Baylor took advantage of the inexperience in the back front, but our front fours is good. I'm very confident in them and what they can do, and the toughness and the mentality, and to get that safety on that halfback toss. And I really liked Mason Kopp. He's continuing to be the guy that I'm very impressed with. He's a very good tackler.
Baylor was an interesting team coming into this, and we played them well. Because they have the ability to throw deep, which is what they did. But we've also seen it before. They're going to try and run down your throat. And we weren't going to let them do that. And I think overall, it's just like the offense. Nothing special, but they did what they needed to do. And some guys made some plays. Xavier Benson had the team total tackles, and then Jason Taylor had the pick, along with 9 total tackles. Really just nothing bad about them to say.
Something that I don't think is getting enough attention is, last year's defense was something else. Nothing would ever match that. But this season's defense is doing a lot of the same things. And statistically, right now we have 36 tackles for loss, and last year at this point we only had 29. So there's some aspects of the defense, yes, that do need improvements, but I think as a whole, we've kind of stayed one of the top tier defenses in the FBS.
I think the reason why is because we're allowing more points instead of keeping the point total low. Because if you remember the first couple games of the season last year,
we allowed 10
low.
points?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Baylor scored 14, they scored 25 here. Not just one game to compare, but it's like you said, they're doing the great things. I think it's just tough because if you look at this game, and you could probably go back to a couple other games, 4th and 5 inside their own territory, and you let up a 70-yard strike for a touchdown. You have a couple 4th downs that you just let them get, and obviously you can't prepare for the 4th downs they went, but it's something to look at.
And to flip it from last year's team, if I had to rely on somebody last year, I'd be like, I trust our defense to get it done in a goal line situation. But now if I had to choose between letting Spencer Sanders go and win or relying on the defense, I'm choosing our offense this year.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I do want to talk about the special teams. And we can't talk about the special teams last week without mentioning Jaden Nixon's 98-yard kickoff return.
That was a lot of fun to see. I didn't realize he had a 4.5 time, and he was how much promise he has for this program.
Yeah, no, he's a track runner. I mean, in high school, he could do that really well. Funny thing I do find is that he actually didn't do anything else in this game. Didn't have a carry, didn't have a catch.
He's probably tired, man.
Correct. But
he ran a football
correct.
field.
But it's just funny to see that his one play was right out of halftime, and then he was there. We just ball never went to him.
It's okay. He did what he needed to do.
Correct, and he'll be back. I mean, technically, he's the 2 to Dominic. I will say, just quickly, what were your thoughts on Gundy having the trust in Ollie Gordon in that last possession where he did fumble the ball, but Spencer Sanders said, I want this game more than anybody else.
Asa, before you mention that, in Gundy's conference, someone asked him about that, and he's like, well, I think we just kind of need to get the guys in there. And Gundy, Jace, correct me if I'm wrong, Gundy was saying something like, I figured he would do something like that.
So, yeah, no, he basically said, the young guys, when they get tired, they don't hold on to the ball. True. I was going to trust him there because he needs to learn. And now that he did it, he needs to learn. Luckily, Spencer made a good play. Otherwise, it may have been a bigger issue. But you did say, that's going to happen.
I think because Spencer recovered it, no one's going to talk about it.
Correct. No one will mention it.
But
But guess what? Ollie will remember it.
That's true. Asa, what were your thoughts?
You have to give our running backs opportunities like that. As much as I don't like it, I agree with Mike Gundy's philosophy. Dominic Richardson has not had, I think if I remember correctly, hasn't had over 70 carries yet. He's not getting a lot of rushing attempts. And if something happened to him, then steps up Ollie Gordon, and then Ollie Gordon has even half of that. So if Dominic Richardson goes down, I'm really kind of worried about what's going to happen for our rushing attack.
67 carries, just to get your points right. So.
The one last thing I want to mention about special teams, our punter, Tom Hutton, did announce that he will not be coming back next year.
Hey.
He's going to go back to Australia with his family.
Yeah, he said he wanted to start a family. That's fair enough. I will say, what a game after to announce that. I mean, he really gave us a safety in that game, to be honest.
Yep.
So. All right, let's look at the Big 12. TCU, this is my favorite headline all week. TCU annihilates OU 55-24.
Oh, that was sweet music to my ears as well, Alex. Just to see this Oklahoma team struggling to find their identity and to see them quit in a football game is crazy. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Jace, you were correct in your prediction. We, unfortunately, were not Asa, so now Jace is tied with us. We are all 5-7 with our predictions. So we're all losing, but we're all tied together equally.
I'll say, though. Predicting Texas Tech to beat Texas and TCU to beat Oklahoma, I feel like there's got to be some bonus points in there, right? No one predicted that.
Sorry, Jace.
I have a little fun fact, or a fun question, I guess. TCU's quarterback. He became the first player with 3 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns against OU since who in what year? Silence.
Bryce Petty, 2014.
You know what? Let's go Colt McCoy, 2008.
This will be the second time we're talking about him on the OSU preview. Patrick Mahomes, 2016.
Of course.
There wasn't really anything else super intriguing in the Big 12 last week. A ranked Kansas State beat Texas Tech. Texas beat West Virginia. Do you have anything else you want to talk about last week's game before we talk about this week?
Kansas is pretty interesting.
Well, we're gonna get into that game. Okay?
I know we're gonna say plenty of time for Kansas.
Do we want to start with Kansas, or should that be our last Big 12 game?
It's up to you. Whatever you think.
Save the best for last.
So let's start with the worst then. Red River Rivalry Week.
Oh, ugly game.
I love that
ugly
this is
game.
the worst.
Yeah.
I love it. This is the best day of my life. Texas and Oklahoma are unranked. It's the only game.
And no one is talking about it. No one is talking about this.
I thought
game.
last year this would be like a top 5 Oklahoma, and the question is, would Texas be able to do this? But it's broken teams.
I saw a tweet that someone said, October 10th, going into the season, it was Red River Week and Texas A&M, Bama, I believe. And they said, who would have thought that I'd rather be watching the Kansas Jayhawks play?
Very true.
So, who are your picks in this OU-Texas Battle of the Unranked?
Jace, you and I, since we've done the poke report around each other, we have very differing opinions. And part of me who grew up a Texas fan wants to cheer for Texas, but 5 years in a row, Oklahoma's won this game. And I've seen Texas choke in overtime. I've seen Texas choke 28-point leads. So I'm very conflicted, and I've said multiple times before that I believe Oklahoma will take this, but I will go with the University of Texas.
I'm going to agree with you simply for the fact that we know for certain that Texas's leading passer is not going to play, and that's a good thing because Hudson Card has 923 yards. But Quinn Ewers is back this week, and that's a big boost, not only of confidence but also offense. And then Dylan Gabriel, in my opinion, there's no been specific word on if he's playing or not making.
I don't think he will.
Correct.
With all the hullabaloo about the whole Tua situation, I think
Correct.
every college and NFL teams are going to be taking things more seriously.
I'm going to be really, really bold in this one, though. Texas is going to win by 20.
Asa, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the poke report, didn't you say that OU was going to win?
I did, but I thought about it last night. That was one of those things keeping me up. And it's like, Asa, if you're going to be an optimist, surely Oklahoma can't win 6 years in a row, right? What are the odds there?
That's my thought, too, is it's time for Texas. It's time.
I'm going with Texas, and if you watch the poke report, I'll say the same thing. In the show yesterday, Asa said that OU had more to lose, and I think that OU's already done. They're embarrassed. They've checked out, and I think Texas has little to gain, but it's still something.
It's the Red River rivalry game, y'all.
Correct.
It is anything you know goes away.
I'll say this: I have never seen an organization turn on a coach so quickly as OU has on Venables since they did on Lincoln Riley not 8 months ago when he left and said, he was not even a good coach at all.
If Venables loses today, that's it. It's
Game
like
over.
he'd be lucky to stay.
Think he'd go to Nebraska?
I don't think anyone wants to go there.
The second Big 12, or did you have anything else you want to say about that one?
Folks, you will want to watch it. I promise you, even though this is kind of the battle of the garbage teams of the Big 12 this year, it's going to be passionate. It's going to be high scoring. There's going to be a lot of cheap shots, a lot of unsportsmanlike penalties. You're going to want to watch it.
Looking at the second game I picked, we have a number 20 Kansas State on the road taking on the Iowa State Cyclones in Ames. Thoughts? Predictions?
Why is that the 6:30 game is my first question.
Good question.
I really think Oklahoma State and Texas Tech should be. I'll get into why a little bit more, but Kansas State, I think, has a pretty good shot to win this game. Going on the road. Was it on the road last week against Texas Tech? Was it in Lubbock?
No,
Right.
it was
in Manhattan. Okay. Well, either way, I still think Kansas State gets it done. Although Ames is a tough place to play, and Jack Trice Stadium's a good stadium, but Kansas State wins that one.
Asa?
Yeah, Adrian Martinez is continuing to show a lot of momentum here. He's proven people wrong. That Oklahoma game seemed to be some sort of born-again football experience for him. So I got Kansas State winning that one.
I have upset. I have Iowa State winning solely for the reason of Ames causes good teams to fail. And we've seen that with OSU in recent years.
Good thing Kansas State is a fake good team.
All right, well, let's talk about the real good team in Kansas, the 5-0 Jayhawks. ESPN's College Game Day is there for the first time ever. They're taking on TCU. Horned Frogs are ranked 17th. Jayhawks are ranked 19th. Asa?
JT Daniels. That's what I got. These Jayhawks coming in. This is going to be a barn burner of a football game, folks. Great slotted Saturday of Big 12 action, but you got to go with the Jayhawks. I'm going to continue to go with the underdogs. They have not done me wrong yet.
Please don't hurt me. Please don't.
Jace,
No.
risky.
TCU has played good teams, and
Yes.
they've beaten good teams.
True.
Kansas has played decent teams, and they've beaten decent teams. I'm going to go with Max Duggan's TCU squad this year. As much as it pains me to say it, I just have a little more faith in the Horned Frogs than I do the Jayhawks. With that being said, though, I do think the Jayhawks will win next week and get bowl eligible then. So
I think the Jayhawks will win. I'm with you, Asa. Why wouldn't we want them to win?
it's not that I don't want them
Now,
to win.
Jace, I do agree with you to a point where TCU's strength of schedule up to this point is stronger than the Jayhawks.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a test of the Jayhawks' ability. But I think they will shock you and they'll shock the world.
Yeah, Max Duggan hasn't played in a sold-out Lawrence, Kansas his whole career. So this is going to be a new environment for him. He's not going to be ready for it.
He's calling Baker Mayfield. See how do I do this?
Let's move into today's 2:30 game against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. In the rankings, OSU moved up to number 7. Texas Tech is unranked, right? I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, they're unranked.
We are back home in Boone Pickens Stadium. The game sold out well over a week ago, and a fun headline going into this game is that Bob Fenimore will be added into the Ring of Honor.
Oh.
Either of you guys have any previous knowledge before I read my stats off?
A Cowboy alum. Someone that is endeared to us.
He was the number 1 overall pick in 1947 by the Chicago Bears.
So is he part of the national championship team?
I believe so.
Wow.
Let me keep reading, and then
Okay.
I'll. This is where my college football knowledge is probably lesser than yours. He led his team to an 8-1 record and a Cotton Bowl victory in 1944. And then he had a perfect 9-0 record and a Sugar Bowl win in 1945. That was what the official statement said.
I'm pretty sure 45 is the year we won.
It is. That's what's in Boone Pickens Stadium. It says 1945. However, all it said was a 9-0 record and a Sugar Bowl win.
Well, that's coming out of World War II. The Riders were just getting back over from Europe. They were tired.
His jersey, number 55, is one of 4 jerseys no longer in rotation.
That's cool.
For
That's pretty cool.
So, big name. We'll get to see that later on today. I personally am a little nervous about this game. If you look at the overall series, it's tied. 23-3. And Jace, you mentioned it last year. Texas Tech's head coach, Joey McGuire, and he's in his first year. He is the first ever Red Raiders head coach to beat the Longhorns in their first meeting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts going into this game?
Well, he knows Oklahoma State pretty well, given that he was with Baylor last year. I will say, I believe he was already off Baylor's staff by the Big 12 championship, so he was not there when Baylor actually defeated us. He's a good coach. I think it was one of the best hires considering he's I know, Asa, you're from Houston a little bit. Alex, you probably don't know too much about Joey, but he's a big recruiter in Texas. He was a high school football coach, one of the best known guys in the state, and that's why Texas Tech wanted him, because he can recruit those big Texas guys. Those big recruits are like, I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Alabama. Why don't you come here? We're going to make you a starter year 1. And he's done exactly that.
So, Alex, I have some great news for you since you're so worried about that 23-23 mark. The Cowboys have won 11 out of the last 13 meetings between these two. Mm-hmm. And the last time Texas Tech won, I'm pulling it up here, was in 2019.
Our freshman year.
Yep. And that was when Spencer, you
that
remember,
was in Lubbock, right?
Correct. And that was a terrible game. That's where Sanders had the 3 interceptions. And I felt like that was the game where all OSU fans since then have been like, Spencer Sanders, interception machine. And that was the game where he earned that reputation of just throwing picks like crazy.
Yeah, that was the game that said it all.
So we had a 9-year win streak and then a couple. Texas Tech won 2018, 2019, and we've been winning ever since. So, Alex, you can rest a little easier, hopefully.
Some key players from the Red Raiders. This week is really tough for people who have a hard time saying their R's and their W's like me, with the Red River Rivalry Week and the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Red Raiders.
Anyway, sophomore quarterback Donovan Smith. He has 11 touchdowns, seven interceptions this season. So 4 touchdowns more than interceptions. Last year against us, didn't do too well. He was 9 of 29, and OSU won 23-0.
Yep, shutout. I remember that. He's a very good quarterback, and he has a great arm. And that's what I noticed in the Baylor game. Remember that throw to Braden Johnson that was kind of off from Spencer Sanders, was a little bit low. Donovan Smith, and he's also very strong, 6'5", 230. He can carry defenders when he tries to scramble. And we've had a problem with quarterbacks that can scramble in the past. Mm-hmm. So that's something to be aware of. But Smith being a sophomore, he still has a lot to learn.
Texas Tech offense is actually very similar yards-wise to Oklahoma State. If you look at the total yards, 475.6 per game for Texas Tech, 478.3 for Oklahoma State. And that looks pretty good, but there's also a little bit of differences because they don't score as much as the Oklahoma State
offense.
Other
thing is, what I noticed looking at the yardage, they really don't run the ball too much. They have 567 total rushing yards. Taking a look at Dominic Richardson, he has nearly 300 alone for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and Smith had 48 pass attempts last week against Kansas State. They rely heavily on their pass game.
And they do have several talented receivers. They got Miles Price, Xavier White, and Durand Bradley.
This is a good offensive team. It's their defense that's going to be the one that will make or break the game, and that's kind of how it went with their past couple games. If you look at the Texas game Their defense showed up in the second half, and that's why they won. They were down by a decent amount. I think, like the Baylor game, we're going to need to put these guys down, not let them stay around.
Looking at their defense from afar, they've gotten 2 interceptions, 4 fumbles, and 12 sacks on the season.
They're
decent.
They're decent. They're going to make a bowl game this year, and
Oh,
and they will do a good job against whoever they compete against.
Are we ready for prediction time? Any more analysis you want to add?
I have one stat.
You were telling me about. You didn't tell me exactly what it was, but you were telling me.
Well, that's a different. The question's a different one. I got a stat one for you.
Okay.
Texas Tech is the 4th team since 1980 to open a season with 5 ranked opponents out of their first 6 games. Do y'all have any clue what the last team was to do that and how long ago it was?
It's gonna be an odd. Can you give me a conference? Can you give me a hint?
Big Ten.
Oh, I was going to guess SEC. Nebraska. 2011.
Let's go Wisconsin 2014.
You got to guess, Alex?
I said Nebraska 2011.
Ohio State 1995.
Wow.
And then before that it was Tennessee in 91 and Michigan State in 87.
91, big year for Tennessee.
Yeah, 91.
Do you know how that Ohio State team ended up that year?
I was looking at, I think they went to the Orange Bowl, and then they won that one. So
looking at this game, as the bookies call it, OSU is favored by 9.5. They have a 77.1% chance to win. The over-under is 66.5. Earlier this week it was 70, so it has dropped. Who wants to go first?
Mr. Lucas, I think you deserve it on this one.
Thank you, my friend. Cowboy fans, we're going to get a win. It's going to be a little scary in the first half. Texas Tech is going to come out swinging. They're not going to be afraid to try to throw a few deep balls, maybe even a couple trick plays to catch us off guard, and it will succeed somewhat. But then the Cowboys are going to come out in the second half well-adjusted. We're going to have a nice secure win. Oklahoma State 41, Texas Tech 27.
I can agree. I think the point scoring is about on par with mine. I will say I think it will be a little bit higher scoring in terms of Texas Tech. I'm going to go with 35 to 27.
Okay.
OSU does get the victory, though.
Sounds like someone stole my prediction who's heard it the last 3 days.
Listen, I got to be honest.
He pleads the fifth.
I got to be honest. I write different notes for about 5 different shows.
See,
And sometimes I forget which score I put in for the first show, and then I'm like,
Well, we have a pretty close score this week. I have 35-28.
Oh.
I say it's just going to be an easy, nothing special, no safeties or field goals, just straight touchdowns. Asa, I'm kind of the opposite of you. I think we'll start out strong, and then the ending is going to get nervous. Maybe that's just because, it's the cardiac Cowboys. That's what we're used to.
Yeah.
But I still think we're going to come out on top. Maybe it's going to be a fourth quarter tie game, and Cowboys come up, 3 minutes to go, and they get that game-winning touchdown.
Please don't bring the cardiac Cowboys back. I don't really want to see that anymore.
I'm a little worried.
I can agree with that. I'll say this, and this may put me in a coffin next week, but I think Texas Tech, if we beat them this week, will win next week against TCU. If we lose this week, I don't think we win next week at TCU.
Those are some big statements. I promise you the Cowboy faithful are getting some nails ready.
Please
they're coming
don't
for
come.
you.
Please don't. Like I said, though, if we win, we win next week, too. So we just got to win this one.
Okay.
So we're either going 2-0 or 0-2, according to Jace Andrews. You heard it here, folks.
Hot take, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen, the past couple weeks, have I been filled with anything else than hot takes? I said Dominic Richardson was going to get 3 touchdowns last week. Let's be honest here.
So there you have it. OSU wins. Close game, but pretty dominant wins from all of us. Asa, you have the Cowboys winning by 14. That's the biggest spread, but all of us have them winning nonetheless. Any other things you want to say?
Got one more thing. This is the question that Asa talked about.
Here we go.
Playoff baseball started yesterday. I know that there's games already going on. Who's your World Series?
I can see the fear in Asa's eyes.
Playoff baseball started yesterday. Who is your World Series? You can say if you'd like the ALCS and LCS, but really what I'm looking for is the World Series matchup and the winner.
I have a Yankees-Braves World Series with the Yankees winning it. Sorry, Ace, I know you're Astros fan, but...
That's interesting. I had an Astros Braves World
Oh.
Series with the Astros getting it done this time around. The honest way without cheating.
Okay.
Thank you for specifying.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jace?
Are we sure? Are we sure there's no
What's-
cheating going on?
What's your prediction?
We've learned, unlike the Red Sox.
Ooh.
Mic drop. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Blue Jays are going to defeat the Dodgers. And I will say this. A big reason why I still have the Blue Jays in there is because the day before the season started, I said the Blue Jays and the Dodgers would be in the World Series and the Dodgers would win it. And so if that happens,
He did.
No
It's
Stradamus.
on his
someone's going
Twitter.
to need to
You know, we can see
tell
that.
myself to come down from my high hill.
Getting back into football, the Cowboys will take the field 2:30 kickoff on Fox, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sold out Boone Pickens. Make sure you're watching for Jace and I in the stands. Asa Lucas, you'll be up in the booth practicing your play-by-play skills.
Sorry, it's FS1. My apologies.
FS1. Two similar channels.
They're
but
very similar. Well, Fox Sports and Fox Sports.
it'll
Or
be
Fox,
a
so.
good game for the Cowboys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the OSU preview. I'm Alex Susky, joined by Jace Andrews and Asa Lucas. Have a good weekend. Go watch the Cowboys and
Go
Go
Pokes.